Let's start today with a bit of a mental exercise. I want you to just step outside your current experience for a moment. And let's propose a philosophical thought experiment. What if your birth wasn't a beginning, but more like an awakening? You know, not a starting gun, but the sound of an alarm clock going off mid-sentence. We're doing a deep dive today into one of the most profound psychological shifts a person can make, moving beyond that instinctive self-centered belief that the world began when you showed up. We are exploring what it means to enter the world midstream.
And that concept, that midstream entry, is really everything, isn't it? Our mission is to understand how recognizing that continuity, that you're a continuation, not a creation, how that fundamentally reconfigures your whole self-image.
It's like the world doesn't wait for your arrival.
No, it receives you. It pulls you into an already ancient moving process.
And the moment you start thinking that way, the scale of your life just instantly changes. It forces this immediate comparison between the span of your individual consciousness and the huge sweep of time itself.
It demands a really radical intellectual reversal. Our core objective here is to challenge that deeply ingrained psychological habit, the one that assumes the present self occupies a privileged position in time.
Right.
If we're going to achieve a genuine historical awareness, we have to recognize that the present moment is just, a fleeting consequence of everything that came before.
Okay, so let's unpack that instinctive habit. If we didn't have to be taught history, how would we naturally perceive time? What's our mental default setting?
Well, our default setting is entirely egocentric, or what you might call autobiographical.
Autobiographical, okay.
We structure the entire universe around the arrival of our own consciousness. I mean, think about how you process the past. Your personal history begins when you gain memory.
The first significant event you experienced.
Exactly.
That's so spot on. If I look back at my own life, those really early childhood memories, maybe when I was 5 or 6, they feel like the start of what's real. Everything before that, my parents' lives, what was happening in the news, it all feels like this vague background noise, almost like a prehistory that doesn't really count in my timeline.
And that is the exact mechanism. That's what reinforces this illusion of centrality. Because your brain started recording data at point A, you instinctively believe reality itself started at point A.
Which makes us think we're these self-contained units.
Self-contained, self-made, or worst of all, beginnings.
But the sources we're looking at suggest the real corrective is seeing ourselves not as a beginning, but as a continuation.
Precisely. The goal isn't just to, remember more history. It's to really internalize that the individual life is just a momentary configuration within a vast temporal structure.
A momentary configuration. Wow.
You are not the first sentence of the chapter. You are a single word in a novel that spans centuries.
That is a profoundly humbling image. But if we are continuations, what tangible evidence surrounds us, like right now, that proves we didn't start this whole process?
Oh, the evidence is absolutely overwhelming. I mean, you awaken onto a stage that's already completely set. You didn't invent the light switch. You didn't coin the language you use to form your thoughts.
And you certainly didn't design the institutions that grant you rights or demand certain behaviors.
Exactly.
We don't choose the stage, we just inherit it. It's not just a metaphor, it's reality. We're born into this whole infrastructure, physical, social, intellectual, that we have to learn to navigate, not invent.
That's right. Every custom, every rule, every accepted belief confronts you as a finished fact. Let's just take the basics. The alphabet you're reading, the calendar that dictates your weeks, the legal precedents that determine who owns your house.
These aren't recent inventions.
No, they are the accumulated residue of long, often violent or accidental processes stretching back millennia.
I was just thinking about the landscape itself. One of the sources pointed out that even the arrangement of streets in, say, the oldest parts of a city are finished facts. They're built on Roman grids or medieval footpaths that assumed certain travel patterns. You inherit that infrastructure, and it shapes how you move, even if you're driving a modern car.
And that's fascinating because it forces us to look beneath the surface of the present. These finished facts are often processes we can't even see anymore. The language you and I are speaking right now contains rules and idioms that are remnants of social structures that vanished 1,000 years ago.
So your life only becomes truly intelligible when you place it within that long series stretching backward.
Not just through your grandparents' lives, but through generations, civilizations, and way back into prehistory.
Okay, so historical awareness is about peeling back those layers. But the real friction point, the moment where that illusion of centrality completely crumbles, that happens when we look beyond human civilization itself.
Exactly. To really appreciate the midstream nature of our existence, we can't just stop at human history. We have to blend the decisive element, deep time.
When we talk about deep time, we're talking about a scale so vast that our regular vocabulary, decades, centuries, it just loses all meaning. How does encountering that scale collapse the illusion?
Well, the human mind is used to measuring time in relation to human events. A person's lifespan, a king's reign, the life of a republic. Deep time forces us to measure time in terms of continental plates, cooling magma, evolutionary epochs.
And when you do that,
When the span of all human existence is placed against that geological backdrop, the individual's self-importance it evaporates.
so we're talking about eons before the first human ancestor even stood upright. What was the Earth doing in all that immense, unrecorded vastness?
It was cycling through processes that are fundamental to our existence right now. Continents were relentlessly drifting, creating and destroying oceans. Mountains didn't just rise. They rose and then completely eroded away, their material becoming the sediment for the next mountain range. Climates shifted wildly from ice ages to tropical hothouses.
And that was the entire theater for evolution before human thought even emerged.
Entire worlds of life appeared, dominated, and then vanished. And this is where we have to bring in that famous illustration from the source material, the one that makes the scale just inescapable.
The dinosaurs.
The dinosaurs.
That contrast always stops me dead in my tracks. It's easy to read the number 165 million years of dinosaur dominance, but what does that actually feel like when you compare it to us?
It feels like an eternity. Dinosaurs dominated the planet for periods so incredibly long. I mean, if you took all of recorded human history, from the invention of writing to this very moment, it would be a blip. It would scarcely even register on that timeline.
So less than a fraction of 1% of their time on Earth.
Far less.
Our entire meaningful timeline, the Egyptian pyramids, the Roman Empire, the Renaissance, the Industrial Revolution, it's all just an afterthought, an asterisk at the end of a biological epic we had absolutely nothing to do with.
And that contrast is the necessary shockwave. It shatters the psychological comfort of believing we are the center of the story. Against that scale, individual lives are almost instantaneous. Even the longest human civilizations look like brief, accidental flashes of light.
And this leads to that critical realization: humanity is a late development. We didn't arrive at the planet's opening credits.
We arrive during the final scenes. We are fragile. We are entirely contingent. We depend on global conditions, a stable climate, the availability of certain elements, the very geography of the continents that were produced by processes far, far older than thought or culture.
We're basically inhabiting a structure that took billions of years to set up.
And we are responsible for keeping it stable for just a few fleeting moments.
So, if we accept this widened temporal vision, what does this terrifying insignificance do to the self? Doesn't the sheer brevity of human life against deep time just lead to nihilism? Where's the meaning if you're such a brief flicker?
That is the essential question that historical thinking answers. And it doesn't diminish meaning, it purifies it. It fundamentally alters your self-understanding because you stop viewing yourself as an isolated observer seeking meaning and start seeing yourself as part of a continuous, purposeful unfolding. The fact that you are momentary makes your contribution more urgent, not less valuable.
I can really see how this kills intellectual and cultural arrogance. If you realize that your entire civilization is less than an asterisk in the planet's life, you can't logically believe that your current age is the culmination of history.
Arrogance becomes completely untenable. The belief that your present values are final, or that your society represents the end point of social evolution, it just cannot survive a confrontation with deep time. We look back and see that entire forms of life have given way to others. Therefore, the present forms of human life, belief, and organization must also eventually give way to others.
Which means change is not an interruption in history, it is its permanent condition. We often fight change as if it's disrupting some static norm, but history, viewed this way, shows the norm is flux.
Exactly. Stasis is the illusion. Movement is the reality.
And that perspective radically reframes the most personal, major life events, the ones we treat as absolute starting and stopping points. How does this view of deep time redefine, say, birth and death?
Birth is revealed not as an absolute beginning, the moment everything started, but merely as a point of entry into an ancient ongoing movement. You're stepping onto a rapidly moving conveyor belt that stretches forward and backward, way beyond your field of vision. It's an immersion.
You're inheriting momentum.
And death, likewise, ceases to appear as total annihilation. It's not the end of the whole story. Instead, it starts to resemble an exit from a process that continues beyond any single life. You step off the conveyor belt, but the process, geological change, societal flux, biological evolution, it keeps rushing forward.
That's a staggering mental discipline, though. It demands that your imagination stretch beyond the comfort of human memory, beyond tradition, and even beyond the entire human story itself.
It requires the mind to venture into realms where memory just completely dissolves. You have to intellectually grapple with processes that have no human witness and no human scale. It forces you to realize that the fundamental story is not the human story. The fundamental story is the story of existence itself.
So what is the final payoff for performing this difficult imaginative act and adopting this midstream perspective?
The reward is a profound and I think a unique form of intellectual humility. You achieve this critical balance where you learn to see yourself as both insignificant in duration, yet profoundly meaningful in participation.
That combination.
It's the antidote to existential anxiety. Your briefness gives meaning to your action within the moment you are given. So history, understood at this depth, becomes the ultimate education and perspective. It trains the mind to live without illusions of centrality, accepting the continuity of the past while also embracing the inevitability of change. It lets you participate fully in your fleeting moment while acknowledging the majesty of the long-term context.
So what does this all mean for us, right here, right now? By learning to see ourselves as these conscious moments within this impossibly long chain, stretching back into geological ages and forward into unknown futures, we finally start to understand our precise and necessary place in the world. And if we carry that perspective with us, it leaves us with this final, humbling thought for you to carry into your day. Consciousness itself is a brief illumination within an immeasurable darkness of time. And knowing that light is brief, you might just find yourself looking at the world around you, that inherited stage, with a renewed sense of wonder and urgency. Something worth reflecting on the next time you look up at a mountain and realize its existence predates every single written word.